Doctors in the house, so lend him your ear. The things he can say might even make your day. He might even help your pain go away. The doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. I'm sure he can tell you just what to do. The doctor is in the house. Doctor is in the house. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. The doctor is in the house. If you have a pain, call a doctor. If you have a sprain, call a doctor. Let the doctor know what you're going through. Let him tell you what's good for you. Because the doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house. Call the doctor. Call the doctor. Call the doctor. Call the doctor. Tell me what's happening now.
Oh, yeah, Uncle Freddie. The doctors are in the house. Dr. Ron and Dr. Jerry here on Dr. Ron Unfiltered Uncensored with a very special guest tonight from Promo Life named Tobias, and we'll introduce him shortly. But before we get going, as usual, I want to welcome you with an attitude of gratitude, because we know that gratitude improves our quality of life. It's an antidote for negative emotions like depression, anxiety, and anger. And ladies and gentlemen, this program contains general medical information. The medical information heard on this program is not advice and should not be treated as such. The information is not intended or implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. You should never delay seeking medical advice, disregard medical advice, or discontinue medical treatment because of information heard on this program. You are encouraged to confirm any information obtained from this program with other sources and review all information regarding any medical condition or treatment with your physician. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, Dr. Jerry is in the house, and good evening, Dr. Jerry.
Thank you. I guess I'm going to be second opinion tonight, right? When the
Second,
doctor's
third,
in the
fourth.
house, you should always get a second opinion.
Ladies and gentlemen, he is hot and ready to go. He's all charged up with ozone and caffeine and pizza and whatever. But before we get going, I have some shout-outs for Saratoga Rehab in Pottstown, for the Harbor Chase Rehab here in Naples, Florida, for Jefferson University Hospital in Philly, and for the NCH Hospital in Northern Naples here. Ladies and gentlemen, these people have been fantastic for family members and are doing a great job. And also a shout-out for my friends in Puerto Rico. Be safe as Hurricane Dorian approaches Puerto Rico, and we are all praying for our friends there and in the Dominican Republic. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we have a really interesting show, but I do have to just bring up something to you that came in today. And what came in, it said, cheer up, optimists live longer. Okay, optimists live longer. And here's the reason you want to turn from a frown and turn it upside down. Optimistic people live as much as 15% longer than pessimistic people. And this was a study that, I don't know, somebody paid for it for 30 years. I guess Dr. Jerry and I could have told you that, or if you listen to this program, you know we are optimistic people that live with an attitude of gratitude. So just like Dr. Mercola started to write about gratitude, I had to bring this to your attention because now someone actually did a study about it. So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have with us Tobias. He's with a company called Promo Life. I should tell you that I own this unit and recommend this unit, and I'm sure Dr. Jerry will tell you the same. He owns the unit and recommends the unit. It's a great unit for making ozone, and you know, we did a program on ozone, but we still get a lot of questions about it. How do you deliver it? How do you make it? What is ozone? Where does it come from? what could it be used for, what is medical ozone therapy, etc. So we'll get into all of that. But first, let me introduce from Promo Life, Tobias. Good evening, Tobias.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show, guys. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Tobias, before we get going, do you want to tell us a little bit about your personal experience and your company?
Yeah, I mean, I started with the company back in 2008. I am a co-owner, which was a great addition. It really helps motivate me and really helps work on better products. But I really got into ozone because I saw it benefit my family immensely. So I've had a lot of good experiences with it. My wife uses it. My kids use it. I've seen it honestly transform and change lives. And, things that we would have to go the medical route to fix, I've seen ozone fix it. And it's so amazing to see that kind of stuff happen.
Wow. All right. Well, Dr. Jerry, and your experience with ozone before we get into your questions?
Well, to me, it's been blowing my circuits for years because we use it in extraction sites with patients, and invariably there's no post-operative pain or swelling. We use it on teeth that have pain. You can make a little tent out of silicone and literally flow the ozone around the tooth, and it kills viruses and bacteria. I demand all my cancer patients have to get an ozone machine, or else they're not going to make it. It's so integral in healing that you just can't do without it. It's not Mickey Mouse and it's not airy fairy. There's plenty of science behind it. In fact, it was Tesla who invented, I think, the first machine to make ozone, if I'm not wrong on that. I think it was in 1890 something or other. So it's been around a long time. We have great fun. And as you can see, I'm higher than a kite right now because I feel great.
Just a personal note, I had, as Dr. Jerry, I had 2 tooth amputations last week. And at the amputated areas, I used ozone. And when I went back to the dentist the following week, he said, "Wow, I can't believe it. You're all healed." And I didn't think, and I know a little bit, that he would not have been receptive to the fact that I used ozone. So I said, "Well, I'm just a fast healer." But I can tell you, the ozone really did the trick, But some people are just not ready for the answer, the truth. Well, Tobias, maybe we should start out with something basic. What is ozone?
I mean, ozone is pretty simple. It's oxygen. So what's happening is you're taking O2 and there's a singlet oxygen molecule that has to attach itself to O2, and when it attaches, it becomes O3. And so, contrary to what people think, ozone is not a pollutant. It's basically all around us. It's used in a lot more things than we expected. If you drink bottled water is purified with ozone. I mean, it's widely used. It's an approved processing ingredient in the organic food industry. Ozone is all around us. It's used in everyday life. It's used in medicine. Without ozone, we would not be on this planet. It is what keeps us here and keeps us going, honestly.
And also, isn't in Germany they purify their public water with ozone?
Well, ozone is it's actually approved by the FDA for water purification because it doesn't leave any residual chemicals in the water. So from a taste perspective, nothing else beats ozone. I mean, I think it's like 300 times more powerful than chlorine as far as an oxidating agent. It just does a much better job at killing viruses and bacteria without leaving a taste or any chemical residue behind. So, I mean, there's nothing else beats it, and it's safe and it's effective.
All right. Well, Dr. Jerry, you got any questions to start Tobias off?
Yeah, I'm going to throw you a curveball. I know in medicine, good curveball. In medicine, they use a hyperbaric chamber, and from what I've read, the ozone is actually more effective than the hyperbaric chamber. Can you comment on that?
Okay. I mean, I have a good analogy on why it can be more effective. So, and I think it really boils down to how, obviously the person and how they're using it. But let's think about it like this, okay? Hyperbaric oxygen, they put it under pressure so your body can absorb it. If you look at ozone, and if we measure ozone versus oxygen, we look at the solubility factor of ozone versus oxygen, it's about 20 to 30 times more soluble in water than oxygen. So let's think about that from a perspective on our skin, and if we're sweating, or when it's going into our body where there's liquid. It's going to absorb so much more effectively than oxygen as it enters our body.
Well, and I think another interesting factor is that when the ozone mixes in the blood, it forms ozonides, which hang around for about 10 days. So a hyperbaric chamber, I don't think you have a long-term residual effect as opposed to the ozone.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. So not only is the ozone reacting with the fluids in our body, it's creating ozonides, peroxides. It's creating other compounds that can benefit our body, where oxygen is inert and it's not going to create those compounds.
And it's a whole lot cheaper, and you can do it in the privacy of your home.
You can, absolutely. It's really easy to do, and you don't have to put your body under pressure. You don't have to have a big piece of equipment to do it. Honestly, we see people really looking to get into ozone because of how simple it is to set up.
Well, it's a lot cheaper than taking an antibiotic, that's for sure, and a lot less side effects.
Exactly.
Well, it's way cheaper considering long-term costs of taking antibiotics as well. So, yeah. I mean, it's a no-brainer in my opinion.
So I have another quick question, then I'll let Dr. Ron take over.
Okay.
When taking the ozone, do you have to take any antioxidants while you're doing ozone therapy, or you could just do it alone?
Well, not necessarily. So what ozone's doing in the body is it's actually balancing our oxidant production. So our body requires oxidants and it requires antioxidants to be balanced. And so ozone has been shown to help balance our oxidants and our antioxidants. But for some people who are susceptible to oxidative stress, it's still a good idea to take some form of antioxidants, just to be sure. But ultimately, in the perfect situation, it's actually balancing this out for our bodies. Not everybody is operating perfect, so some people may have to take antioxidants.
Right,
okay, so Tobias, before we get into some questions about the treatment and diseases and so forth, maybe could you speak to what is medical ozone and bridge that into what does ozone do for therapy?
Yeah, absolutely. So medical ozone is ozone that's created using a pure oxygen source. Usually it's going to be the oxygen source that's going to be used is going to be 99% pure. So when we feed oxygen into an ozone generator, we're only using the oxygen to create the ozone. And what's coming out of the ozone machine is going to be about 2 to 3% ozone. The rest is going to be the oxygen that hasn't been converted. But we don't want it to be super strong, because if medical ozone is too strong, it's essentially going to, with too much ozone there, it can be harmful in the long run. Basically, too much of everything can be harmful. So it's really about, medical ozone is about moderation and having the correct concentration.
And does ozone, in your experience, does it work for diabetes, arthritis, lupus, Lyme, fibromyalgia? I could go on and on and on. Maybe I should ask you, is there anything that, in your experience, you found that people have not responded to with using ozone?
Yeah, and that's actually a really good question. So what we really view what ozone's really doing is it's an immune modulator. So if you have an overactive immune system, it can help move that back to normal. If you have an underactive immune system, it's going to help boost your immune system. So when it comes to fighting a lot of these diseases, such as Lyme disease, diabetes, and other diseases like that, with Lyme, we're having, bacterial issues, and so it's going to bump your immune system up to help take care of that. So if we have, psoriasis, you're typically going to have an overactive immune system. So it can help bring that down. It's not going to be, I never like to say ozone's the fix for everything, because I think we have to take a more holistic, we have to take an overall approach, but it's definitely one of those key factors that it can be incorporated in just about any therapy.
You mean it's not like Windex and my big fat Greek wedding where you can put on broken bones and everything?
Well, I mean, honestly, I look at it as one of the more powerful tools in the tool chest. Yeah. And it's something that people should honestly not go without. I mean, it can be used for so many different things. I mean, I use it on my kids for ear infections. And so if they get an ear infection, ozone ear insufflation. I mean, you can find so many cool uses for it.
Well, I know just for a little pearl, in New York during the summertime in Manhattan, the oxygen level, I think, gets as low as 15%. And you wonder why people get so sick.
Huh. Yeah.
Yeah, that's honestly, your body needs oxygen. So.
Well, Dr. Jerry, you want to find out about treatment times and so forth with Tobias?
Yeah. Is there any maximum number of treatments you can do a day with ozone?
Yeah, I mean that really boils down to the individual and the health of the person. I mean, a typical healthy person, I mean, they can do treatments 3 times a day. We've seen people who do insufflations, rectal insufflations 3 times a day. What we find is, depending on the detox reaction to that person, if they're doing a heavy detox, it's something they may not want to do 3 times a day, obviously. They need to gauge it upon how they feel and what their body can handle. But most people can honestly do it multiple times a day.
Now, I got to be serious with you. The ones that do rectal insufflation, do they levitate?
Oh, I think they, I would say they're close to it, okay? They're close.
But all kidding aside,
they're definitely lighter.
Yeah, that's for sure. With a time sequence, is 10 minutes adequate, 15 minutes better? Is there a limit to what each treatment should be in time?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, what we're looking at is the volume of gas that we're using and the concentration. So, one person might want to go slower, so that's obviously going to extend the time. If somebody goes faster, yeah, it's going to be shorter. But most treatments shouldn't take, longer than 10 to 15 minutes. And so a good starting point, for a lot of individuals is, we do recommend when you first start out with ozone to start with a lower time. Don't get yourself into it. Understand what ozone is. Understand how your body reacts to it. Become familiar with it before you start, going gung-ho and increasing the time.
Now, what dosage do you recommend that people should start with? 35 micrograms per milliliter? Or?
And that's a really good question. So when we traditionally start out, we want to keep it between that 20 and that 40 micrograms per milliliter range. 20 is obviously on the low end, 40 is going to be on, a little on the higher end. You can go higher than that if you want to. But a good example is people who have Lyme disease typically can't, they want to start out at a lower concentration. They may run into more of a detox reaction if they inch closer to that 40. So, really most people are going to do great at that, 35 to 40 range, and if not higher. Some people have to honestly start out at a little lower concentration, and that's going to be based upon your health.
Could you also use ozone again? Okay, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Dr. Jerry. Go ahead.
How about use for pets?
Ozone is being used for pets. There's a dentist up in I believe it's Massachusetts, mashvet.com. You can check it out. She's one of the she really promotes ozone in pets. She's phenomenal. She's actually trying to get a lot of research together on how it can be effective for pets. But what they're doing for pets is they're taking a good example of an application is they're taking ozonated saline solution, and they're using it subcutaneously. So they're just injecting the ozonated liquid underneath the skin of the animal and letting the body absorb it. So yeah, it is wide. I wouldn't say it's as widely used in pets as with people, but it's becoming a very popular treatment option for pets.
Great, thank you.
And Tobias, in your experience again, because you deal with a lot of people, is there a method of application that's more widely used than others?
Well,
in other words, is ear
most common,
insufflation very popular?
Absolutely. So like the most common application that people are typically going to get into is going to be, rectal insufflation. It's just because it's more of a systemic approach to getting ozone into the body. Ear insufflation is a great way to do it. Honestly, when you're first starting out with ozone, I like to take it a little slower. Let's try things that you might be more comfortable with trying. Ear insufflation is one of the best ways to start out. Drinking ozonated water is a phenomenal way to start out. Both make you feel great. And honestly, what happens is people realize that, hey, this is actually making me feel good. So let's dive into this other method to see how I feel when I do this. And they realize that you can combine all these treatments into one. So you can do ear insufflation, you can drink the water, you can do the rectal insufflations, and it really systemically gets that ozone throughout your whole body.
Well, just as an aside, I had a patient with acute myeloid leukemia, and 2 days after I gave him an ear insufflation treatment, when he went to the University of Pennsylvania and they did a blood evaluation of him, they said, we never saw a cancer patient like you that had 100% oxygenation of blood. So even though you're taking it in the ear, it gets out through the whole system.
Yeah, I mean, and that's because ozone's so soluble. It just really helps. It just really gets throughout the body very effectively. And you can also look at it from the standpoint of if you're focusing on ear insufflations, it's also going to be more concentrated in the area that you're hitting. So it's going to be more concentrated in the head zone. Rectal insufflation is going to be more concentrated down there, and so forth.
Now, you spoke about using medical oxygen. Is it possible to hook up an oxygen concentrator to the ozone machine?
I mean, you can, but there's two ways to look at it. Oxygen concentrators will typically provide you with around 90 to 95% oxygen. A medical oxygen tank is going to give you 99% oxygen. So you have a higher quality. That being said, I really recommend people use a tank because not only are you getting a higher quality of oxygen, it's so much easier to use. Just using a tank with ozone, it simplifies and streamlines the process as far as setting it up and using. Concentrators are tricky. They require, setup. They require to turn on. You have to let them run for a while to build up the concentration. And I just, for people getting into it, honestly, a tank's really the way to go.
Okay. Now, also, when you have your setup, do you recommend bubbling the ozone through like distilled water to hydrate it?
Yeah, that can make a big difference for a lot of people because contrary to what people think, even though ozone is, they think ozone's drying, but it's really the oxygen. And so the oxygen, if it's coming from a tank or a concentrator, there's no humidity in that oxygen. It's the same reason when you look at somebody who breathes oxygen, they always attach a humidifier to the oxygen concentrator because it would just dry out the nasal passages. So we do recommend for most of the applications, especially for ear insufflation, for people who do develop irritation easy or if it gets dried out easily, a humidifier is always a really good piece to add to the equation.
And just as a personal note, I do air insufflations, but I find I have to put distilled water in my ears before and put some ozonated oils in after. Otherwise, I was really getting a lot of discharge. Now, do you think that was just from the oxygen, or do you think I was detoxing?
I think you're detoxing, honestly, because it really differs between individual. Like I can do it for 5 to 10 minutes, and I don't have any discharge at all. And so, it just really depends on the person.
Tobias, tell them the truth. Naples, Florida is a very toxic area.
Well, we got a lot of algae, that's for sure. We got a lot of red tide. We do have a lot of pollen. So I can't disagree 100%, but our quality of life is really good. I do get to walk in my bare feet. So, Tobias,
That's good. Yeah.
What are the major side effects of ozone, if any?
Honestly, there's really not major side effects with ozone, and that's the beauty with it. I mean, if you look at a lot of the studies that have been done and look at the people receiving treatment, I mean, it is so low. I mean, the people who have had issues, it's barely at all. And then you kind of wonder, well, maybe they did something incorrect in their treatment. That's why they had an issue. But I mean, if you compare it to pharmaceutical medicine, I mean, there's no comparison.
Okay. Well, let's just hit on one other subject before we go on, and that's the anti-aging effect of ozone. Dr. Jerry and I talk about cell membranes and how they get coated with these marine lipids, that these oils that everybody takes, and it just inhibits respiration, inhibits oxygen from getting into the cells, and inhibits the toxins from getting out of the cells, and therefore affects the mitochondria. So does ozone affect that at all?
Well, ozone, when it comes to anti-aging, so what it's doing is it's really promoting elasticity in the body, and not to mention it's modulating your immune system. So what it's basically doing is it's setting yourself up for normal aging, if that makes sense. So I mean, everybody's going to age regardless, but some people age a lot faster due to stress, toxicity, health issues. But when you add ozone into the equation, you're really putting yourself back at that normal aging process, in my opinion, because you're modulating your immune system. You're getting yourself back to what it should be. And I know a lot of people are using ozone and stem cells as well. I think ozone complements the stem cells quite a bit, because it sets your body up to receive that stuff, and it's going to be more effective in the long run.
I have an interesting question. Yeah, if a woman is pregnant, would that contraindicate the use of ozone with her?
So that's another tricky but really good question. I've talked to a lot of women who do ozone while pregnant. I've talked to I know I saw this really great lecture from a lady who did a form of ozone called RHP ozone, and she was pregnant while she received it, and she came out and said, I didn't have any side effects. But there are women who do it. There's not going to be as many, because there's always that what if factor. There hasn't been a lot of studies done on pregnant people as far as if it is safe, but the amount of people who have done it, there's nothing that's come out that's indicated that it's not safe.
Well, I would think the fact that it burns up toxins would enhance the development of the fetus, tremendously.
I would absolutely agree with that as well. I mean, but obviously the tricky part is, making somebody, like, let's just hypothetically say if there was an issue, if you were doing ozone, that's the one thing you're doing different. It just gets a little tricky, but it's up to the woman to make that decision and to make the best medical choice for herself.
Well, Tobias, most of the ozone being used by the average person, Dr. Jerry's patients, so forth, and using it at home, they're probably using some form of insufflation. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. And
maybe a ozone sauna, but can you talk a little bit about? I am a proponent of prolotherapy, and if we get rid of the glyphosate and get more people to stimulate their collagen with prolotherapy, I think we would have a lot less rotator cuff surgeries and joint surgeries. But can you talk a little bit about prolozone and how that's being used in joints?
Yeah, I mean it's a really cool therapy. My wife had it done on herself not too long ago. She had an 8 millimeter herniated disc in her lower back, and they were recommending for her to have surgery, and they gave her the whole list of pills, the opioids, anti-inflammatories, the steroids. I mean, and nothing. I mean, nothing helped. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, it helped with the pain a little bit, but it wasn't fixed. Her body wasn't getting past it. It wasn't allowing her to get better. And so once we started the Prolozone treatment, with the first treatment of Prolozone, I mean, she was back on her feet working within 3 days. I mean, it
Wow.
was just amazing how fast it worked for her compared to all the other stuff that the traditional medicine route was giving her. I mean, and it makes sense. I mean, the Prolozone, you know, you have the sugar, you have the procaine, the B vitamins, and it's going in there. It's, you know, it's basically telling your body, hey, there's something going on here. Let's get this fixed. And, you know, then the ozone comes in and it reduces the inflammation and it creates a healing response. So and that's what I truly believe Prolozone does, is it really focuses and deals with that inflammation, which is why so many people have such a hard time getting over some of these injuries. You know, if we can eliminate that inflammation, their chances of healing is going to be a lot better.
Hey, Jerry.
Well, yeah.
Jerry, is this fitting into our paradigm?
Oh, absolutely. With the zymesins, the systemic enzyme, I use it routinely with patients, and that in itself reduces systemic inflammation, which speeds up the whole healing process. But on another note, the actual use of ozone increases production of collagen and and cartilage. So,
and,
you know, the
and not to
combination.
mention, some people even say, I know it's not truly like proven, but I mean, some people are saying, and I personally believe this, that it can help reduce some of the scar tissue as well.
Well, the zymesins absolutely does, because I have patients from around the country that are saying after 6 months of being on the zymesins, their surgical scars from years ago are disappearing.
Yeah. And that actually brings me to I'm going to deviate a little bit, but that's one of the common treatments that women can do at home is vaginal insufflations. And a lot of women suffer from like endometriosis, and that's, you know, obviously a buildup of scar tissue. And we find a lot of women who do vaginal insufflations with ozone, it gets a lot better really quick.
Well, Tobias, why don't we talk a little bit? We know that ozone is you know, no side effects to speak of. It's anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, antiviral. It helps with healing. It's anti-aging. Helps with the respiration in the mitochondria, and so forth. So, let's talk about. If one of our listeners wanted to get into using ozone, what would they have to do?
Okay, so typically what it boils down to is you want to, you know, obviously you have to have an oxygen source to get into it. And, you know, there's really three different ways you can do it. You have your medical oxygen, which you would get through your doctor. You can also go with the industrial oxygen route, which is interesting because it's essentially the same stuff. There's no difference. They fill it from the same lines. So having that oxygen tank makes it a lot easier. You know, we do have access to pre-filled tanks for if people want it, but we do try to push people toward either medical or industrial. So once you've secured your oxygen source, basically what you need next is a package. And the package would contain, you know, the ozone generator. You have to have tubing to hook everything up, and you have to have the devices to administer the ozone. It sounds like a lot of stuff, but what it really boils down to is the instructions given and making it user friendly and having the resources available to show you how to do everything. And, you know, with that being said, it's just like learning something new. I mean, it's not, you know, it's not very complicated. It's just the act of doing it and making it happen. But I mean, anybody can do this at home. I mean, it's not that difficult.
Well, Tobias, doesn't your website have videos on how to hook it all together?
We do. We have instructional videos that show you how to hook everything up. We also have information videos that show you how to perform, rectal insufflation. We're actually coming out with several new videos that show you how to do other types of insufflations. And we do a lot of these videos through cartoon. So you can imagine we can't have a video of a person demonstrating how to do a rectal insufflation. That might get flagged on the internet. So we use like a cartoon character instead, and it just makes it so we have less issues with, putting them on YouTube. But we try to make we try to make the information available so the user has the ability anytime to learn what to do.
All right. Well, Tobias, Dr. Jerry and I invited you to the program. You didn't pay to come on here, so I go ahead and give your information about how people can get to your website and phone number and so forth.
Well, if you go to promolife.com, and that's PROMOLIFE.com, that'll take you to our website. You'll see a nice heading on there that says ozone therapy. We also have a video heading on there as well. Check it out. Honestly, one of the best things to do if you're really wanting to get into this, the best thing to do is just give us a call, because we can walk you through it. We have people that do ozone daily here. We can discuss what you're going to need, what you're going to want to move forward. And if you're ready to honestly get on board with the ozone, which a lot of people are, we can help make that happen. I mean, we're here. We make ourselves available to walk you through, to tell you what you need, to simplify the process as much as possible.
And your unit is it American made?
Yes, it is. We also offer a lifetime warranty on it as well. And the other thing that comes with our stuff that we sell is free tech support, because we believe that if you're going to use a product, we need to make sure you're using it properly. And that way you're going to receive the benefit, the maximum benefit out of the product. If you're not using it properly, and you're not going to get the benefit. So that's not in our best interest. That's not in your best interest. Well,
as I said, we have talked about your product. I use it personally. I have some friends using it. Dr. Jerry uses it. So, and I actually, my first unit, I had a problem, and I have to tell our listeners that you stepped right up to the plate, took it back, and resolved the problem without anything more being said that it didn't work properly. So, from there on in, I knew you were reputable.
Hey, anytime we ship stuff cross country, stuff can happen, but we just want to make it known that if there is any issues, we will take care of it.
Well, okay, Dr. Jerry.
Well, I got to tell you, when it comes to cancer treatment, the traditional chemotherapy has been documented to be 2.1% effective, and I just had an incident with my cousin. He flew up from Florida 4 months ago. He was diagnosed with stage 3 melanoma, and they almost killed him with the oral chemotherapy. He landed in the hospital with the adverse side effects. Actually, when he got out, he called me up and he said, I'm coming up to see you. Long story short, I got him on your ozone machine, put him on a nutritional program to detox him properly. And 4 months later, his PET scans are showing no more cancer. So, people think that, cancer, it's a death sentence, the big C. But in reality, all cancers are the same. It's an oxygen deficiency, as Dr. Ron brought up earlier. You have contaminated cell membranes. The oxygen doesn't get in. The cells go into fermentation, and the cells go kokomo-bokomo. That's all. And I don't care if it's brain cancer, uterine cancer, rectal cancer, lung cancer. It's all an oxygen deficiency. So ozone is, I believe, one of the best approaches to help resolving this. And forget about the fear factor, man, because they scare the living daylights out of you when you're in the hospital.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. I've had a person.
We talked about too, just to follow up on what you've said about and Dr. Jerry, the ozonides. But I ran into some studies that really show an increase in nitric oxide production. And you're hearing a lot about this with beets and so forth, but nitric oxide is critical for your heart, blood pressure, sexual function, and antioxidants. So,
Yeah.
I think from my perspective, the main thing is that you have to use fresh, pure ozone. I think that's really important. That's why you need a generator. You just can't buy the stuff in a tube.
No, you can't. I mean, ozone has a half-life of like 20 minutes, so you have to make it. That's the only way to it.
Tobias, I'm going to ask you a stupid question. If a tank of oxygen lies dormant for like 9 months, does it adversely affect the quality of the oxygen in that tank?
Absolutely not, because oxygen is non-reactive, so it's inert. I mean, I deal with, like high-quality oxygen, and I've talked with numerous suppliers, and, they put expiration dates on some of these oxygen canisters for purity purposes, but these expiration dates are 5 years.
Wow.
So
okay.
9 months versus 5. I mean, here's the thing: if you have an oxygen tank and you haven't used it in 5 years, you should use it.
All right. So, it can be used for about anything. What's the average price point for the average listener to get into ozone treatment?
We can basically set people up. Yeah, absolutely. We can get an average person set up with everything that they need for under $1,500. I mean, sometimes we can do it for less depending on what they get. But I mean, if you want to get the stuff to do the ear insufflation, rectal insufflation, the water, and all the other cool little accessories, it's going to be around $1,500.
And their ongoing expense would be the refill of the oxygen tank. Is that correct?
That's 100%. Yeah. The only ongoing expenses is getting the oxygen tank, and if you go with industrial oxygen, you're talking about a $20 refill cost, which you might incur every 4 to 6 months. And then the only other cost that you have would be if you're doing the insufflations. Insufflations require a insufflation catheter. You can reuse them or you can dispose of them, but that would be essentially the only repeat cost.
Now, I have a question on the tubing. If you're using it on a regular basis, let's say 3 times a week, approximately how long should the tubing last?
I would easily say you should get about a year out of the tubing. Okay. So you might want to consider replacing some of the tubing, a year down the road. If you're using it a lot, it could be every 6 months.
Okay.
All right. So, Tobias, let me just see. We have a few people on the line. Let's see if anybody has any questions.
Okay, absolutely.
Caller number 48402. Any questions for Tobias on ozone?
Yeah. When I first started using, I had I got my ears very dried out, and I've cut back. What would be the recommendation in the beginning stage of use for using getting the ozone, to your ears?
So if you've experienced some irritation already doing it, I would definitely recommend if you don't have a humidifier, adding a humidifier to it. The 2 other things that you can do is lower the ozone concentration a little bit. That'll help, and also decrease the amount of time that you're doing your ear insufflation. So, like if you are experiencing irritation, add that humidifier. Do it around 20 gamma or 20 micrograms per milliliter, and then maybe do it for 3 to 5 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, I have the humidifier.
Okay.
So you're saying no, roughly 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, if some people can tolerate, like a lot of people can go to 10 minutes, but some people really, may want to keep it under 5 minutes. And the other thing to also consider, and this is what I do as well. Like when I do it, I can't do it. I don't do an ear insufflation the next day. Like I have to wait a day before I do it. So I'll usually do an ear insufflation if I'm doing them every other day, because if I do them too close together, I'll have some itching in my ears and stuff like that.
Thank you.
caller, I just from questions like yours, I found that really, if you can put a drop or two of distilled water in your ear before the treatment, and either some coconut oil or ozonated olive oil or whatever in
Definitely.
your ear afterwards, I've found that people have responded to that. How about you, Tobias?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, definitely putting a little bit of oil. I think oil more than the water. For people who have severe cases, I'd recommend the water first because it's a little bit easier. But definitely putting something in your ear can help.
Are you okay? Are you okay with that answer?
Yes, thank you.
And
Okay.
then
Thank you for
caller number 43315. Any questions? Oh, got a quiet one. All right. We had. Let's see. We have a few more. You know what, Dr. Jerry? Let me just. A couple people don't want to talk on the air. Let me get some questions from them, and then I'll come back on.
Okay. Do you have many dentists using your equipment?
Dentistry is honestly one of the, I would say, the good growing sector of ozone therapy. We're getting a lot of biological dentists getting into ozone therapy because it just makes sense. I mean, you're dealing with the mouth. There is a lot of, bacteria up there, and let's look at what ozone does as well. I mean, ozone typically will go after the anaerobic bacteria more than the aerobic bacteria, and that's typically the bacteria that's causing more of the issues. And so, dentists have to use, bleach or, some type of sterilizer to kill that bacteria. But why not use ozone? Ozone's going to not only kill that bacteria, but it's also going to help with your gums as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of mainly biological dentists are really getting into ozone therapy. There's conferences that have whole sections dedicated to biological dentists getting into ozone because it's becoming so popular.
Well, a simple little procedure, if you're getting a cavity filled, the dentist should so-called sterilize the tooth structure by, flowing ozone in it before he puts the permanent filling in. I mean, I had a woman who had 15 years of sinusitis problems coming from a bridge that a dentist cemented in that had a strep infection underneath because he didn't, properly cleanse the teeth before he cemented the bridge on. So, it's crazy. You cut a tooth open, that's surgery. You have bacterial contamination.
Absolutely, and this is something that people can do. Like one of the easiest things that people can do at home to keep their teeth healthy is ozonate some water, and then just use it as a mouthwash, and that'll get that ozone, into your teeth, into your gums through the water. I mean, it's something that it's one of the easiest things you can do.
Oh, I agree.
And what we have some of our listeners doing is ozonating colloidal silver water, and they say their gums are always healthy.
That's good. That's awesome.
Yeah. So the questions revolved around the antioxidant. Using ozone as for its antioxidant properties, its anti-aging properties, and one caller wanted to know if it was antiviral, and she was worried about the flu season.
Oh, it's absolutely antiviral, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I look at it from the standpoint of, it'll help eliminate the virus, but it's also giving your immune system a boost so it can naturally fight that virus as well. So you're looking at it, you're hitting it from both angles, and it's just one of those things. There's not many things out there. I mean, they don't really give you antivirals for the flu nowadays. I mean, I guess you can take that Tamiflu, but it's got a lot of side effects. But when you look at ozone, no side effects.
Well, it does have a side effect. It stimulates white blood cell production, which boosts your immune system. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. A good side effect.
So,
right.
It's an upside, yeah.
Exactly. So we here we talk about Otto Warburg, and he said if you have enough oxygen, you don't get cancer, and I think he won at least 2 Nobel Prizes. So, we are really going to be talking more about ozone this coming year, and there's so many articles written in Europe. It's just crazy. I was looking at it before the show, and I don't want to get into the technical part, but there was over 3,000 articles that written in Europe about ozone. And I was looking at in Germany, the ozone clinics. They're all over. I mean, here you probably have to fight to get into one, but to find one even. But they're all over, and they do a lot of what's it called, auto. They put the ozone in your blood and then inject it back in.
Yeah.
Is that happening in the United States? Autohemotherapy?
It is, and so what's really cool, what's happening in the States is, you know, obviously the FDA does not cover ozone therapy, nor does insurance, or not FDA doesn't cover it, but they don't recognize it. Insurance doesn't cover it. But what you're seeing is a lot of independent clinics, doctors who believe in ozone. They're starting to pop up all over the place. It's more going to be specialized as far as offering ozone therapy. And you're seeing, I mean, honestly, I'm in Fayetteville, Arkansas, okay? I got a guy that just opened up doing prolozone therapy. He's going to start doing other stuff as well. There's a guy, the first guy that I went to was in Grove, Oklahoma. It's a little small town, and he does it all. I mean, it's crazy because you can see ozone therapy offered in large cities and small towns all across the United States. But, you know, we need more of these people to open up so more people have access to ozone, and it is happening. It's happening every year. More and more people are getting into it, and you're seeing more and more people provide ozone therapy nationwide. I mean, probably not to the extent that it's being offered in Germany, but, you know, there's definitely a revolution happening with people becoming more open to ozone and more people providing ozone therapy.
Well, you know, what's really important, if you're getting colonics, you know, if you have cancer or some serious illnesses, you know, putting ozone up there definitely will help kill the parasites. Just doing a colonic, it's only part of the puzzle, but to really be effective, you got to add ozone into it.
Well, yeah, I mean, the ozone, I mean, it helps with inflammation as well. I mean, a lot of people suffer from, you know, low-grade inflammation, and, you know, a lot of people that I talk to, I have personal friends as well, and, you know, people who have, like, IBS or, you know, other types of issues with their bowels. I mean, it's due to inflammation, and that ozone can really help relieve a lot of those symptoms.
Well, I got to just share this pearl with you. A lot of this IBS and this intestinal stuff is coming from the darn glyphosate being trapped in the intestines.
It is, and that's a huge issue. I mean, we have such a toxic food supply chain, and, you know, it's one of those things that it's affecting more and more people. And so this isn't just a fluke. You're going to see more and more people having this issue as we, you know, overfarm, overproduce, you know, use all these chemicals on food.
Well, Tobias, I think our listeners got a lot of information tonight, and listening to you and your company, PromoLife, and promolife.com. They have an 800 number. What is that? Do you know that number, Tobias?
Yeah, that 800 number is 888-742-3404.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're interested in adding a ozone generator, I can vouch for this company personally. They've really treated me and my friends well, and Jerry, they've treated you and your patients good also. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, many of my patients have purchased the ozone machine because I tell them right up front now that if you're doing any type of serious therapy, ozone has to be one of the main parts of the treatment plan.
Yeah.
So, Tobias, you know, we generally preview this program as medical news that you can use, but talking to Dr. Jerry this week, and we really are a self-help podcast. So we're putting out information so that our listeners can help themselves, get informed about it, be the CEO of their own bodies, and then make an informed decision. So tonight's podcast really added a lot of information for our listeners, and I really appreciate you taking the time to explain ozone in a great fashion, easy fashion for our listeners to understand.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate you guys having me on the show. I mean, you know, we want to do our best to provide as much information as possible to everybody. I mean, there's a lot of other phenomenal websites out there that provide good information. One of the websites that I like is ozonewithoutborders.ngo. They're a really good non-biased website that provides a lot of good information as well. There's a lot of other great, videos out there on YouTube that talk about ozone, but, we're here to help. We want to make sure that you have everything you need to get started and perform what you want to do.
Well, on the negative side, not negative against ozone, but there were 2 doctors that had volunteered their services over in Sierra Leone. They were teaching the local doctors how to do ozone therapy, IV, to treat Ebola. And in 1 week, they cured 5 patients. And the next thing you knew, the pharmaceutical company ran these guys out of the country.
Well, it's obviously they're threatening their profits. So
absolutely,
anytime profits are threatened with these big companies, they're going to do what they can and step in and try to squash it. And it's so unethical that money has to play such a role in helping people, especially in Africa, out. But that's just unfortunately the society that we live in. Yeah,
and even AIDS is adversely. Or it's very effective against AIDS when you do IV ozone treatment, but yet it's too cheap, Would they get $12,000 a patient a year for AZT and those toxic drugs?
That's you're right. That's what the thing with ozone is. We create it out of oxygen, and so there's no special compound that we have a specialized patent on. This is ozone. Ozone's not patentable, so with it not patentable, there's no money for the pharmaceuticals. They don't have the money invested into it, so they don't want to have anything to do with it. So, with that being said, ozone is something that everybody has access to, and it's just a phenomenal tool for people to have.
And you better order it before they ban it.
I hope they don't ever do that. I know they're going to do everything they can to eliminate natural health. I think they're going to try censoring more than anything. And they have other ways that they can try, but I really hope they don't touch this one. I mean, it's helping too many people.
Well, we're trying to get the word out before this happens. We know what's happening to Mercola and Greenwise and other natural websites. Google is definitely downgrading their searches on those sites and so forth. So, while we can, we definitely want to get the word out. And tonight was really good, and a lot of information that was put out there. So, Tobias, thank you so much, and hope to have you on again. And we will finish up the show shortly, and we'll be in touch with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys, for having me. It was a pleasure. Okay, you guys take care. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, ladies
Bye-bye.
and gentlemen, we've been talking to Tobias Siegel from Pro Promo Life. So I hope you learned something about ozone. Don't be afraid of it. It's not the smog and everything you hear about. This is medical grade ozone. And there's the side effect of it is it does cost some money. So if you can afford it, or maybe a couple people can go in together, definitely worth your health. And what's your health worth? I mean, the whole idea is to prevent disease from occurring in the first place, and ozone can play a valuable role in that process. So, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted just to tell you about next week's program, which is going to be a little bit different. The children are going back to school and they have a number of ailments. Next week, we have invited Dr. Alexis Brink. She's a trained expert with nearly 3 decades of experience and has written a book on the art of Jin Shin. And that shows readers how this little known practice can change your health and that of your child for the better. So the art of Jin Shin can help your child in a natural way. And you just use your hands and harmonize the energy so your body can heal. It's simple, effective, it's non-invasive. It's good for fevers, coughs, stress, flus, headache. So anyway, Dr. Alexis Brink will be on the program next week, and she'll also talk about her book that she has written called The Art of Jin Shin. And she'll be talking about some childhood ailments, stomach aches, headaches, anxiety, and flu and cold. So that's next week. Dr. Alex will be here, and it'll be a little bit different, almost like Dr. Jerry's mentor telling us about Qigong. So it'll be an interesting show. I'm looking forward to having her on the program. So, Dr. Jerry, I think we learned a lot tonight about ozone.
Absolutely. And we gave them a tool that they can use at home and save themselves a whole lot of time and money, and less heartaches. What was it? 300,000 people killed a year from adverse drug effects.
Yeah. Third leading cause of death. I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen. Third leading cause of death. Maybe the first when you consider hospitalizations and everything else that Dr. Jerry brought up. So, yeah, absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the program. If you did enjoy the program, give us a like on Apple Podcasts or on our Facebook page, Dr. Ron Unfiltered Uncensored. Appreciate that. Any review that you see us on. We're on Spotify now, ladies and gentlemen. And on Spotify, they now allow you to make podcast menus. So you can add Dr. Ron Unfiltered Uncensored to that menu. If you're driving with Waze, we're on the Waze podcast. So if you have a stretch of 40 or 50 miles where you don't need turn-by-turn instructions, you could listen to one of our programs. I would recommend this one, the ones with Dr. William Wong, Dr. Brian Peskin. Just a lot of information on our programs. And if you feel like you need some time for reading, we also can recommend, we have our co-host has a book out, and it's doing quite well. So why don't we, before we close, why don't you tell our listeners about your book?
Yeah, Remove the Splinters and Watch the Body Heal. It just was translated into Spanish, so it's going to go viral in the Latin American countries. But basically, it focuses on defining the underlying reason for the error instead of just treating a symptom, even with a vitamin. So it's been very well receptive, and the patients and people that have read it have gotten really great feedback. So I'm excited, and I wrote it to educate people so that they can help themselves. So it's that simple.
Well, as we said, from here on in, we're going to just stress that we're a self-help podcast. We're here to help you, give you the information so you can help yourself. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. I hope you learned something. Dr. Alice Sprink next week on childhood healing, the natural way. And Dr. Jerry, thank you. And
you're welcome.
We will call it a night and see you all next week on the radio. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to Dr. Ron, Unfiltered, Uncensored, with Dr. Ron and Dr. Jerry. We are here each and every week to bring you medical news that you can use and medical news that you will not hear on the mainstream media. We hope you enjoy our podcast, and we hope to see you on the radio next week. Have a great one. Ciao.